Ignite your soul and set the world on fire. Be inspired by the stories of faith. This is Ignited to Inspire. Brought to you by the Ateneo Junior and Senior High School Campus Ministry every Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. here on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Be ignited. Be inspired.
All for you, Jesus, my Lord.
Magandang hapon mga katipunero sa ating mga tagapakinig, to our viewers, good afternoon. Welcome to Ignited to Inspire, your weekly dose of inspiration.
Nice.
Be ignited.
Be inspired.
You know.
Yan, pinag-practicean natin yan, Sir Mark. So, kailangang ayusin, di ba?
Okay, so again, welcome to our show. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. And this afternoon, we're in for another fruitful discussion of inspiring things, no, the things that ignite inspiration in us, no. But before anything else, let's just, as always, open our program with a prayer to be led by my guest host for today.
Yes. So, let us remember that we are in the most holy presence of God. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, help us to remember that there is nothing in this world that can happen to us today that you and I together cannot handle. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay, so muli, magandang hapon sa mga ating mga tagapanood, tagapakinig, and welcome to Ignited to Inspire. No? In this show, we always ask, no, parati nating tinatanong, anong nagbibigay inspirasyon sa'yo? At ngayong hapon, tulad ng mga nagdaang linggo, meron tayong bagong pag-uusapan, no, na posibleng magbigay inspirasyon sa atin. As always, feel free to join the discussion. We are on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/Radyo Katipunan and on Twitter as well, no, with username at Radyo Katipunan. We are coming into you live from our studios inside the Sonolux building, Ateneo de Manila University. No, so feel free to join our discussion this afternoon. So bagong lahat, papakilala ko muna yung mga kasama ko at syempre ang sarili ko. Muli ako si Mark Garcia mula sa Senior High School Campus Ministry Office. At ang aking guest co-host ngayong araw ay ang nagbabalik, no? Si Mr. Jelord Oloraza.
Ayan. So, hello everyone. Nagbabalik na. Parang ninenervyos ulit ako, no? Parang first time ulit sa Radyo Katipunan.
Parang hindi naman sa BS5 mo pala.
Parang hindi na sanay last year. Ayan. So, ayun po. Jel po ulit. Nagbabalik sa Radyo Katipunan. Ignited to Inspire. Okay. And thank you for inviting me, Sir Mark.
So, tapos na nga pala yung... masaya tayo, no, na nagbalik si Jel ngayong hapon. And of course, no, this afternoon, muli meron tayong kasamang panauhing pandangal.
Wow. Parang big word yan.
Big word. Again, I love the show because every week we are graced by people.
Inspiring people.
Oh.
Ayan.
Nagre-react siya. No, but we are graced every week by people with very rich stories, no, and insights to share. And this afternoon, we are joined by the current Alumni and Resource Development Officer of Jesuit Volunteers Philippines Foundation Incorporated. This afternoon, we are joined by Mr. Jose Emmanuel, or more fondly known as Yayun Patrimonio.
Maraming salamat po for inviting me here. Ano na lang din po, special shout out to my co-workers, my fellow staff members of JVPFI.
Okay. So, no, I think just from the introduction of our guest for this afternoon, no, galing siya sa from a group named Jesuit Volunteers Philippines Foundation Incorporated. No, last week we had a special episode, a tribute episode actually for teachers. No, we were graced by the presence of Mrs. Sansan
Borja,
one of the beloved teachers in the Ateneo High School. as a way of celebrating, in a way, World Teachers Day. This week, this episode is inspired by mission, precisely because this coming Sunday, the church is celebrating World Mission
Sunday. And this October was announced by Pope Francis, di ba? It's the Extraordinary Mission Month.
Oh, ano ibig sabihin nun?
Okay.
Basta titignan natin mamaya kung ano bang ibig sabihin ng Extraordinary Mission Month. Or in capsule siguro, we'll talk about mission.
Oh, hindi lang siya basta-bastang Mission Sunday nitong paparating na linggo. Pero no, ayon nga sa Santo Papa, isa siyang isang buwan na pagdiriwang ng pagmimisyon. At ngayong hapon, as I said, we are inspired by mission. This episode is inspired by mission, and really one of the opportunities people can go into when we talk about mission is this group called the Jesuit Volunteers, of the Philippines. And this afternoon, Kuya Yayun, is here to enlighten us about what this group is all about. No, so
parang bigla lang akong na-struck, Sir Mark, kasi si Sir Yayun kanina tinanong niya ako bakit daw Jelord yung pangalan ko. Ngayon baka naman pwedeng let's have a glimpse of, kasi sabi ko Yayun, bakit kaya Jose Emmanuel Patrimonio? Baka naman you can give us a short background lang ng bakit Kuya Yayun ang tawag ng mga
pati yung kuya
sa inyo. Ayan. Sige, sir.
Hindi ako nahanda sa tanong na yan. No? Well, first and foremost, I wanted to thank you both, thank this show for recognizing the quiet works of our volunteers. Often kasi we do not realize how many people are actually working so hard behind the scenes. So I think it's a very heartwarming thing to be able to talk about volunteers and what volunteers do. As on the part of my name, it's not a very interesting story. So parang let's just say it's a very it's a pet name at home. Wala siyang masyadong interesting story behind it. Yung interesting story lang is I prefer to use it over my name kasi nga nakaka-pressure, being named Emmanuel. Parang feeling mo bata ka pa lang, kailan mo talaga mag-volunteer para ma-earn mo yung worthiness of your
para
name.
Para mapanindigan mo yung pangalang Emmanuel.
Yun nga. So parang among my peers, because I also used to teach and I'm a formator before, so most people call me Kuya Yayun kasi nga parang kuya na lang ako sa kuya parang joke lang ganun.
Kuya ng lahat.
Tsaka para mas mabilis siyang tawagin. Parang ako, di ba? Para when I introduce myself to our students, ang sinasabi ko na lang yung nickname. Kasi when I say my full name,
pero ano ba yung pangalan mo?
Sila.
Ano yung pangalan mo?
Jelord.
Galing sa
Jelord, galing siya sa dalawang words, Jesus is Lord. Ayan. So kung si Kuya Yayun o si Sir Yayun, parang nape-pressure siya, di ba? Doon sa kanyang pangalan. Para mas lalo naman sa akin, di ba? Mas nakaka-pressure. Parang I should embody talaga, yung pangalan na yan. But anyway, sige. So, tignan natin kung napapanindigan ba talaga natin yung mga pangalan na yan, Sige, so pag-uusapan natin ngayon about mission nga. So, ang ganda nung unang word pa lang ni Kuya Yayun, It's a quiet work.
Sinimplihan na niya.
It's a quiet work. And I think that's giving us a glimpse of what a doing mission is. Parang gano'n, Kung nagmi-mission ka, isa itong hindi dapat something to talk about to people, something na ipangalandakan sa mga tao. It is something na you do because it is the right thing to do and it is for the glory of God. Diba?
Right thing to do.
So para nasa gist na tayo na ating usapan. But anyway, before we go deeper, kung ano yung ginagawa talaga ni na Kuya Yayun, and of course, Mark here is also a volunteer, for a year. So, bago siya pumasok na Ateneo. Sige, pagpalagay natin na ako ay isang interesado na isang
wag natin yung pagpalagay totoo.
Sige. So para yun yung drama natin ngayong hapon. I am a young person, a bachelor na yan. Bachelor talaga, para na mag-interesting. Ayan, na parang siguro habang naglalakad ako within the Ateneo, papasok ng opisina, may nakita akong poster, about the Jesuit Volunteers Philippines Foundation Incorporated, or the JVP. Tapos syempre, parang na-arouse yung aking curiosity. Ano kaya to? Especially so that I am a person who wanted to be in mission talaga. Kasi past years naman of my life was in mission, sa mga rural,
Sa mga
sa mga
parokya.
barrio, sa mga parokya, ganyan, di ba? So parang sabi ko, now that I'm in Ateneo, parang nakita ko ulit, this is another opportunity. So siguro maganda rin tignan natin, ano nga ba? What does JVP mean? Jesuit Volunteers Philippines Foundation Incorporated. Ano ba ito? Ano yung kanilang ginagawa? Sino yung bumubuo neto? At paano to nag-umpisa, Kuya Yayun?
Ang dami tanong.
Ang dami. Lahat na ata na buong show.
Para in one,
I
sa
will have the
pagsakan,
next 30 minutes to explain. Ano lang. Of course, thank you for that question. But I guess, in the simplest sense, Jesuit Volunteers Philippines Foundation Incorporated is, we are a non-profit organization affiliated with the Philippine province of the Society of Jesus. Essentially, what JVPFI does is we facilitate a volunteer service program that recruits, trains, and sends out young men and women, usually fresh graduates and young professionals, to different marginalized institutions across the Philippines to be able to provide needed services for a minimum of 10 months to a maximum of 2 years. So if you notice, we basically we promote JVP as really an opportunity for faith-driven service in contribution to nation building.
Okay, so parang from the gist of it, parang volunteer talaga. If you enter to JVP, you'll work really as a volunteer. So wala kang
Yes.
makukuha.
Wala kang sweldo. But of course, you're given an
Allowance,
allowance
parang
for decent living din naman. So hindi ka naman i-deprive of anything naman during your volunteer year. It's just that usually what happens with JVP, we have different institutions. So from marginalized communities, parishes, and NGOs who cannot afford a regular salary for a staff member. So they request for volunteer assistance from us, and then we try our best to recruit the right people to be able to fill these needs.
Okay, so parang nakikita ko kung pure volunteerism lang yung ating basehan dito. So hindi ba kayo, Kuya Yayun, nahihirapan dun sa paghahanap ng mga taong papasok? Kasi kapag sinasabi mo ngayon, parang mga young people ngayon kailangan may mapagkakitaan. Kahit nga ako, young professional ako, meron akong stable job, pero parang naghahanap pa rin ako ng part-time job. Diba?
Gusto mo
Parang,
JVP.
parang something like that. Parang hindi na siya masyadong interesting kasi nga wala ka naman makukuha. When financially wala ka talagang makukuha. Diba? So paano yung hindi ba kayo nahihirapan sa paghahanap ng mga fresh grad or young profs to enter JVP?
Interestingly, through the years kasi, there are a number of motivations na tumutulak sa isang tao na sumali sa JVP. Maybe not all of these motivations are entirely selfless, but regardless, these are motivations that led them to volunteer in the first place. And I think that's the most important thing. So, but personally din, from working with recruitment with JVPFI throughout all of these years, I feel like maybe we are also getting the wrong impression about young people, because we have this notion that people in general tend to prefer what is self-serving. But I personally do not believe that, because you see it especially now research shows, so research talaga may basis. Research shows talaga na this generation, specifically the young generation that we have now, is very concerned about being involved and having a sense of purpose, which I think is also one of the really strong driving forces. But of course, in the end, you cannot really judge a person's motivation for doing volunteer work. But what is essential with volunteer work is that it is voluntary, it is freely chosen, and that it is not forced upon them. And that at any point, well, let us be honest, at any point, volunteerism can be ended at any point then, because you are a volunteer. So you choose to volunteer, so you can also choose to stop at any point in time. So really, JVP understands that the most important thing here is not the initial choice to join, but the continuous choice every day to stay.
Wow, parang napakalalim na talaga doon.
Pero ang galing din kasi pang ilang year na to, Kuya Yayun, ng JVP?
This is our 40th year, and we are currently also recruiting for our 41st batch of volunteers.
41st
Di ba, parang
batch.
going back to Jelord's question, I think the ironic thing is yun nga nabanggit, parang seemingly it's difficult to recruit. Pero may dahilan din siguro ba't umabot ng 40
Yes,
years?
exactly. Yes. So,
Ang ganda nga nung sagot Parang nakikita mo para siyang opposite no sa reality pero para hindi kasi umabot ang JVP ng 40 years. So ibig sabihin nun, may mga tao, young people talaga na nagvo-volunteer. Now, in connection with that, gusto ko lang malaman Sir Mark no kasi you're a volunteer. Nanggaling ka ng JVP for a year. So siguro very shortly lang, ano yung naging motivation mo as a fresh grad? Bakit naisipan mong pumasok ng JVP? Bago tayo pumasok kay Kuya Yayun kasi feeling ko mas nabalitaan ko Kuya Yayun parang 2 years ka sa JVP as a volunteer. So parang siguro bakit kaya umabot siya ng 2 years? So malalaman natin yan mamaya. Pero sa'yo, 1 year.
Ang interview to.
Para ano yung motivation?
Nag-apply ba?
Yeah, ano yung motivation mo last time?
Siguro sa akin, nakilala ko kasi ang JVP, first year college ako dito sa Loyola Schools.
First year college.
Nakilala ko yung JVP kasi meron akong ka-org nun na graduating siya tapos binanggit niya na mag-JVP siya. So nung unang beses pa lang na narinig ko siya, sabi ko, uy, ang radical ng ideya na to pero parang okay siya. Parang it's one of those things that stuck with me. Parang it stuck with me na hanggang 4th year ko, na-realize ko, bakit pinag-iisipan ko pa rin siya. So I guess in a way, Ateneo's formation, I mean the way it forms its students, di ba, kahit punong-puno ka na marinig mo yung man, woman for others na yan, magis, etc. etc. Isabay mo yun o sinabay ko yun sa sarili kong pananampalataya, no? Na parang I realized at some point na maybe this is really something I wanna do. So sa madaling salita, ang motivation ko nun, talagang makapaglingkod sa Diyos at sa bayan.
So parang nararamdaman ko yung sinasabi ni Mark, no? Parang, okay, nandito yun, Ignatian values, na araw-araw mo yan naririnig, araw-araw mo yan nakikita, pero parang there's something missing, no? And that is maybe to take action to what I really hear, to what I listen to what is embedded on me.
Kumbaga, I was looking for ways, how do I live this or these values out?
Yeah, kasi tama nga naman yun. Kapag hindi mo isabuhay, what for are these values?
True.
Okay? Yeah.
Kaya naman siya.
Sige. So pupunta tayo kay Kuya Yayun mamaya-maya. Pero may interesting question lang ako dito, Kuya Yayun. Kasi natanong ko to kay Mark, sabi ko, sa Bukidnon lang ba to? Kasi at first, para notion ko, kapag minention ang JVP, parang palagi pinagkukwentuhan Bukidnon. Pero sabi niya, no, Bukidnon is just one of the many mission stations of JVP. So, how do you choose? Paano ba to? Given na ba na itong community to dapat yung mabibigyan ng volunteers? Paano ba? How do you choose the mission stations?
Well, originally, I guess the stories that you hear about JVP in Bukidnon are primarily because then JVP started in Bukidnon. It started with a group here in Manila that volunteered way back in 1980, and then they traveled down to Mindanao, and then basically they dropped each other off along the way to Davao, where Father Jet Villarin, the current president of Ateneo de Manila, was actually assigned. He was the last one to get off in Davao City.
Wala pang mga orientation.
Wala pang mga orientation. It was just as simple. Would you like to volunteer? Are you ready for this? And then pumunta na sila agad. Also because JVP operates primarily by not necessarily, we don't operate kasi by area, but we operate by need. But generally what happens is, if you are recruited here from the Luzon area, usually these are individuals who are recruited to areas that are, well, farther from where they are from. So for example, Mark, having been recruited here in Manila. Was assigned to Bukidnon. But in terms of how we identify these mission areas, well, primarily as affiliates of the Philippine province, originally we always used to assign to Jesuit ministries, and we have a lot of Jesuit ministries in Bukidnon. However, we have not limited ourselves to Jesuit ministries alone. So we have served parishes and indigenous peoples communities and other marginalized communities. Essentially, what happens is, if an institution needs assistance, they contact JVP and make a request for volunteers. So they specify their needs, they specify the kind of skills that they would like to fill those needs, and then basically we do our best to recruit to fill those needs. So through the years, many different institutions have been requesting from us, from those communities that were affected by Typhoon Yolanda in the Samar Leyte area, to even areas I remember as far back as far north as Apari, as far south as Basilan used to have JVPs assigned. And through the years, really we have been almost everywhere in the Philippines. But we are constantly looking to partner with new organizations that really need the service. The only requirement here is that that really this is an area in the Philippines with the greatest need.
And parang over the years naman, natutugunan nyo naman po yung mga communities na humihingi sa inyo ng tulong.
We would like to believe
Sana.
so. Yeah.
Okay.
That is our greatest hope.
Pero so, kasi parang nakikita ko, no, parang there are a lot, sabi nga ni Kuya Yayun, na nagre-request. And yun nga naman din, no, depende rin yan sa nag-apply din sa dami ng mga young prof or ng mga
Yes.
gustong mag-volunteer sa mission. And you've answered na yung isa kong question kung paano natin minamatch, no, yung ating mga ano tawag dito, applicants bang tawag
Yes,
sa kanila.
applicants.
Paano natin sila minamatch dun sa kailangan talaga. Ayun nga, basically because yung mga mission areas na to, nagpapadala na sila kung ano talaga yung need nila sa
Kailangan.
community.
Yes.
At yun yung hinahanap natin sa ating mga volunteers.
Yes.
But were there instances also, Kuya Yayan, gusto ko lang itanong, na you're able to reject some applicants, parang ganun?
That's
Hello.
that's an hindi ako
Oo,
na-prepare.
parang something na siguro kaya niya, pero hindi, kasi di ba parang ganun, something na very passionate siya dito sa bagay na to, pero meron siyang nakikita na siguro sa aspeto ng kaya ba niya sa bundok or kaya niya ba na mamuhay ng ganito kasimpleng buhay, parang ganun.
To answer the question, I would like to look at it as a process. Parang it's like a discerning community. So, of course, the individual who would like to apply for JVP has discerned to the best of their ability their desire to join. And I think when a community like JVP comes together in prayer, also discerning whether this individual will be able to fill the needs of the communities, that's one. And then secondly, if this individual is personally ready for the experience, because really JVP is we have a phrase we call what happens to a JVP. A JVP is ruined for life,
Okay,
because
okay.
you are taken out of your comfort
Yes.
zone. You are taken from what you are familiar with, and then you're put into a very different situation, a very different culture, a very different way of living, and then given so many responsibilities and so many expectations, because of course really this is about the institution and the needs that we are trying to provide. So we would like to really dispel the idea that this is an opportunity for someone to go on immersion and
Yeah,
experience what it is like to live in the boondocks and the mountains. So really this is about whether or not this person is able to respond to the needs of the partner institutions that we have that have entrusted their organization to us. So yes, there were instances in the past where individuals were, I would not like to use the word rejected, but more like maybe it was not their time.
They were properly chosen.
Yes.
Parang ganyan.
Many are called, but few are chosen.
No? Parang natanong ko yun kasi titignan ko kung papasabaho sa kasakali
Of course naman.
Parang
Jel, di ko na talaga nagbibiro ka pa ba?
Parang after nung sagot ni Kuya Yayon, parang sabi ko sa sarili ko, merong pag-asa, parang ganon. Sige, so maraming salamat. So at least na-clarify yung idea, no? Na parang immersion, gusto ko parang
And
ganito.
I
na
think
parang
it's
ganyan.
such an important thing to clarify also that it's actual work.
Yes, it
Actual
is.
work.
Kasi yun nga, nabanggit ni Kuya Yayun, baka para sa iba, wala siyang pinakaiba sa immersion or
Tama.
area visits, quote and quote, na ginagawa pag estudyante ka. But here, you're sent to do actual work that the institution can't pay for
By
an employee.
themselves. Yes,
Oo.
exactly.
Kasi katulad ng sa isang first-timer na yung katulad ko, parang gano'n. So parang yun yung nasa isip ko, immersion ba yan? Ano ba yan? Parang just to para experience lang ba yung buhay ng mga IPs, yung mga sa buhay sa Bukidnon or so whatsoever, parang gano'n. And as I look into, meron kayong pamphlet dyan, nakita ko nga meron silang mga position na nakalagay dyan.
Yes.
So sabi ko talaga, tapos sinabi nyo nga, they are professionals.
Yes.
No? And parang ang ganda talaga kasi nagmamatch talaga siya. So ito yung kailangan, nandito yung taong ito, doon natin siya ilalagay. So parang we are not out of line, 'di ba? May direction talaga. So hindi talaga tama yung sinabi ni Mark, this is real work. Hindi lang to basta-basta immersion, hindi lang to basta-basta binigay sa trabaho kasi volunteer ka, but this is a serious business.
Yes.
Parang ganun. Na pinunta ka dito dahil hindi lang to experience the life, but to be of help, to be of service
Exactly.
to the community. No? So thank you so much sa napakayamang sagot.
I would assume, Kuya Yayun, di ba? Kasi nga, it's volunteer work. 40 years, hindi madaling sukatin yung nagiging epekto nito sa isang partner community. But I would assume that siguro one of JVP's hopes for its partner institutions is na parang eventually dahil sa naiambag ng isang volunteer, hindi na nila kailanganin ng volunteer. Tama ba yun? Tama.
Well, I think in general, all volunteer organizations have the same outlook na we work hard because one day we would like not to work hard anymore. Basically, volunteers exist because there is a need. So the presumption is when the needs are filled, we are no longer needed. And I think speaking of the 40 years is not really like a celebration of longevity, quote unquote, but really a question of how effective have we been throughout the years in really serving the needs. But looking at institutions that we used to send to that we no longer send to anymore, and new areas that request for volunteers, we would like to believe that we were able to somehow provide what was needed well, of course, to a certain extent, because at the end of the day din naman, parang yun nga sabi ni Mark na mahirap naman talagang sukatin yung impact. Because of course we do not see ourselves as messiahs, not trying to really save the world, but just really simple people with a simple intention of wanting to do some good for a community. And sometimes that translates to really big changes, but sometimes that also translates to one of your students who you used to teach who was inspired by what you did and decided to also join JVP and serve another community.
At nangyari na talaga yan.
Nangyari yan, yes.
Tama yun, no? The goal is not to really answer or to give solutions to a lot of problems, no? To a lot of difficulties, but to join people, to journey with people, to at least somehow, no? To journey together to solve these certain issues or difficulties. Parang ganyan. Makipaglakbay, no? At least to let this communities know na meron silang mga taong pwedeng asahan, pwedeng, no? Pwedeng to journey lapitan para isolve yung kanilang mga problema or yung mga difficulties sa kanilang mga areas, no, or communities. So ayun, napaka-rich nung ating unang part ng discussion, and I think it's time for us to para lang din mag-sink in muna yung ating mga napakinggan, kasi yung kay Kuya Yayun, parang as he shares, no, yung kanyang mga ideas about JVP, parang kailangan kong, Kuya, medyo hinay-hinay kasi kailangan ko i-digest kasi napaka-meaningful ng mga words. Oo, yung mga yan. So, parang na-entice na tuloy ako habang nagsasalita siya about JVP.
At mawawala na ng campus minister.
So, siguro para mag-sink in muna yung mga words na yon, Sir Mark.
At syempre, no, we'll take a short break. After the break, Kuya Yayun has talked about JVP as an organization, but I think more importantly, maganda ring marinig ang sarili niyang karanasan ng pagvo-volunteer, no? We'll take a break. We'll play a song that I think is very relevant for today, no? We'll discuss it after a short while. We'll be back. Stay with us.
We will be back in a few, Katipuneros, so please stay tuned.
Something's greater than our hearts. The story Such a mystery, for the world is yearning still, and our hearts keep burning. We dare to believe there's something greater than our hearts. The storms of life may shake our ground. A greater peace still dwells in our hearts. The dreams we build may fall apart. A deeper hope still runs in our hearts. Fear no harm, we are ruled by a far greater love. We're never alone. All else may go wrong, still will there be a love far greater than our hearts. The dreams we build may fall apart. A deeper hope still runs in our hearts. Fear no harm, we are ruled by a far greater love. We're never alone. All else may go on, still will there be a love far greater than our hearts.
You have just heard a song from the Jesuit Music Ministry. Follow JustCom PH on Spotify and JustCom Music on YouTube. We are also on iTunes and Deezer.
We are now on YouTube. Watch all of our live episodes plus exclusive content in our channel at Radyo Katipunan FM. Don't forget to click subscribe and hit the bell to get the latest updates.
Okay, we're back. Muli, magandang hapon sa lahat ng ating tagapakinig, tagapanood. Welcome to Ignited to Inspire. And this afternoon, we are inspired by mission, no? And with us this afternoon is Mr. Yayun Patrimonio of the Jesuit Volunteers Philippines National Office. And he's here to share with us, no, what JVP is all about. At yun nga, sa nakarang unang bahagi ng ating programa, naikwento na ni Kuya Yayon sa atin kung ano ang JVP, paano siya nagsimula, what it does, sinong pinagsisilbihan nito, how volunteers are matched with different institutions. And now for the second part, we'll try to go deeper into his personal story of volunteerism. Pero bago yun, we just heard Far Greater Love, no? It's a song usually associated or dedicated to someone whose death anniversary we celebrate today.
And this is his 23rd death anniversary.
No, so today we celebrate the death anniversary of Brother Richie Fernando SJ. No, I'm sure for a lot of Ateneans and for a lot of also into JVP, sigurado hindi na bago yung kwento ni
Brother
Richie Fernando.
Say, this is also about mission, no?
Oo.
Saan ba talaga ang puso mo?
Di ba?
No? Saan ba talaga ang puso mo, di
Saan
ba?
nga ba ang puso natin?
Ayan. So that's associated with Brother Richie.
Oh, for those who don't know Brother Richie, he was a Jesuit scholastic, was sent to Cambodia to do his mission, for his mission work. One day, I think if I remember the story correctly, a student comes in with a grenade. Dahil medyo may problema yata yung bata nung araw na yun. No, he brought a grenade to school. Brother Richie struggled with a child because he was headed towards a classroom full of students. So I think Richie stops him, tries to struggle with the boy. A grenade falls. no one from the classroom is harmed, pero si Richie ang binawian ng...
Kasi ang ginawa niya, Sir Mark, anong ginawa ni Brother Richie?
Ano nga ba?
Ayan, ayan. So, he covered the grenade using his body.
Yes.
Ayan. So, sumabog yung grenade. Ayan. So, parang he died as a martyr, saving the lives of his students. And of course, madaming tao sa school na yan. Kasi I think it happened inside, di ba, the building. Parang ganyan. So, he sacrificed his life.
So again, today we remember also the death anniversary of Brother Richie Fernando SJ. And I think, sabi nga ni Jel, may pagka-martir, no? Parang when talk about martyrdom, it's about giving yourself freely.
Freely. Yeah. To the mission.
And I think, again, it speaks so much of what JVP is.
Yeah.
No? Yung pagbibigay ng sarili ng malaya, ng buo.
At walang hinihintay na kapalit.
Oo. And again, for this second part, subukan natin kilalanin yung sariling kwento naman ni Kuya Yayun. Diba, iba yung pag-uusapan mo yung grupo lang ng JVP at iba yung makarinig ka ng kwento. Not from a volunteer who did it for 10 months, but from someone who did it for 2 years.
2 years, no? 2 years of volunteer work.
Oo.
Yan. So, siguro, pagkatapos ng una niyang taon, parang masaya to. So, para diba, what gave him the motivation pa to continue and to renew for another year.
And hopefully, we see, yun nga, makita natin sa kwento ni Kuya Yayun na parang, parang JVP is an actual option I can enter into. But, bago yun, last na, abati muna tayo sa ating mga
nakikinig. Lalo na, baka madaming volunteers ang nakikinig ngayon.
Oo. So, bumabati sa atin si Joel John Clemente. So, sabi niya, watching live from McKinney, Texas, USA, from a batch 11 alumni.
Wow. So, we're going international pala. Hello po. May PFC na pala tayo. Hello po.
Hello po.
Salamat sa pakikinig.
Si Kuya Rayman Sardido, sabi niya, pag-greet naman dyan, Mark and Jose.
Kuya Jose pala to.
Si Ma'am Jerly Shanda, who we also had as a guest before, also
At
JVP.
nakasabay natin kanina. Hello, Ma'am Jerly.
Si Ate Whitney, sabi niya,
Watching from Canada.
from Canada.
Wow.
Grabe.
Hello there po sa Canada.
International na tayo,
international talaga.
Hi, Yayun. JVP is love. Bati ka naman, Kuya Yayun.
Oh, hi Ate Wits. I hope you are doing well. Padala ka naman ng balikbayan box.
Ayan. So, mga nag-greet sa atin, mga dating volunteers pala, no? And they are already abroad.
Abroad, yes.
So, grabe. Siguro habang nakikinig sila, binabalikan, sinasariwa nila yung kanilang mga fruitful and meaningful experiences sa JVP.
Okay, pasok tayo sa kwento
Sige,
ni
so,
Kuya Yayun.
kilalanin natin itong ating panauhing pandangal, ika nga ni Sir Mark. So, Sir Kuya Yayun, ano ba yung katulad nga ng tanong ko kay Mark kanina, anong taon siguro ka pumasok sa JVP? No? This is not to expose the age, ayan, but to tingnan natin, no, sa mga panahong yon, what gave you the motivations then na pumasok sa JVP? How did it start? No? What tickled your mind or maybe your heart? No? Na itong JVP, this is something for me.
Well, looking back, I remembered, I was surrounded by JVP way back in college kasi I also graduated from an Ateneo, Xavier University in Cagayan de Oro. So we had formators and mentors who were JVP, and basically I knew of JVP a while back. I graduated in 2012.
Okay.
So at the time, and I will be honest, I pointed out earlier that maybe not all motivations for joining JVP are, entirely selfless. And I am actually one of them because way back in 2012, when I graduated, I really had, to be honest, I really had no clear idea of what I wanted to do with my life yet. I had a degree, I had options, but I really had no inkling of what my heart's desire was at the time. And I thought to myself, but I've been doing volunteer work in college. So I thought to myself, I can stay at home, just bum around, waiting to figure out what I want to do, or I can spend that time doing something meaningful while trying to figure things out. And I am reminded of words shared online by one of our current volunteers, actually, Nico, who replaced you in Zamboanguita. He shared, God does not choose the qualified, but He qualifies the chosen. So I felt like JVP gave me a deeper sense of purpose for my life, and I was able to. Well, I use the term ruined for life in JVP because that's what JVP did with me. My entire outlook on things changed because you learn about it when you are in an Ateneo. You learn about the values, the formation. You learn about cura personalis and magis and all of these things. But it's different when you are challenged to concretize love in the face of difficult social situations. And really, that was the motivation was very simple, maybe a little bit selfish, but the gains from it were quite unexpected. That only God can create something out of nothing, and I feel like that's what He did for me.
Yun. So, grabe, no? Yung, well, doon sa base sa kanyang sinabi, it's early to tell kasi, no? Parang kagagraduate mo lang, tapos parang alam ko na talaga yung gagawin ko. I have this degree, so I'll practice my degree. No? Parang ganun. Pero, there is something na, it's a grace, maybe, given na ito yung tinapos ko, pero hindi talaga ito yung muna yung gusto kong bigyan ng pansin. There's so much more. There are more important things that I have to face, no? That I have to give myself into.
Yes.
Yun nga. Medyo selfish yung motivation, parang part of it, pero
What made you decide, Kuya Yayun, na parang, was there a point na nasabi mo sa sarili mo, okay, apply ako, tutuloy ko to?
It wasn't. Well, what made me decide wasn't anything really related to me. What made me decide was what JVP was. Na I thought to myself, if I wanted to give myself to an organization, this is the kind of organization I wanted to give myself to. It wasn't because personally I had any aspirations in relation to JVP. It was just that JVP was very clear in its intention, very clear in its motivation. JVP was very clear in what they are trying to do, and I guess it was because of the JVPs that I grew up around that I saw that this is something special and that this is something worth my time. And so I said, okay, I might not be entirely convinced. Sabi ni Father Jet Villarin, there's no such thing as 100% certainty even in science. But I knew that my heart was leaning towards volunteering for this organization, and little did I know that I would eventually end up working for this organization one day. So the miracle of trusting and faith. So
yan. So Kuya Yayun, now you gave your yes, no, to JVP, and until now parang hawak ka pa rin ng JVP. Now going back to those years that you were in JVP as a volunteer, where were you assigned and what works na did you do?
So, sunod mo tayo sa unang taon.
Sa unang taon.
Sa unang taon.
So in June, sa unang taon, during my first JVP year, as a graduate with a degree in psychology and having worked with my peers in college, my first assignment was actually here in Ateneo. Shout out to Ugat Foundation and the team of Father Nilo Tanalega and Kuya Kaloy Lagaya, where I was assigned to work for Ugat is actually the psycho-spiritual ministry or arm of the Society of Jesus. And basically, they provide psychosocial services to grassroots communities. And I was assigned to a program that works directly with the Special Apostolate of Ugat, which deals with migrants. So I worked with the families left behind by migrants. So I met kids who were rather well off if you look at it from the outside, but who were very broken, lonely and alone on the inside. And that's when I realized that we're not just dealing with economic poverty, but we're dealing with the poverty of the spirit here. So you realize, that's when I started, when I appreciated more my own family members who had to work abroad to give for their families. And you realize that there's really a lot going on in this particular ministry that maybe we don't automatically associate with struggle because you're thinking abroad, so dollars, maraming pera. But to all the kids that I have met in that year, I realized they taught me what it means to what family really meant, and what it means to grow up without a father or a mother, and what that can do to you as you are trying to journey and trying to get through life.
How old were these kids, Kuya Yayun?
We worked with kids as young as grade school, elementary school, to as old as college, because we usually work with guidance offices in schools, because that's where the kids are gathered, and we would visit different places across the Philippines in order to provide these services when they request for it. And there we went to as far north as Ilocos to as far south as Surigao. So we met different kids who had different faces, different names, different stories, but all had the same brokenness, which personally I found very heartbreaking. And I wish more people to volunteer for this kind of ministry, because maybe your own classmate, your own friend, or your own child or daughter, nephew or niece is struggling with this, but you just don't see it.
O hindi mo makikita, maybe, no? So you did that for a year.
Yes,
No? So
a year.
parang na-apply mo din pala yung degree mo after graduation.
That
so parang
was
naging
unexpected.
counselor ka naman at some
Yes,
point in your volunteer year. And then after that year, Kuya Yayun, what happened?
And after that year, I was struck with the JVP bug. I was struck with the desire to volunteer for another year, primarily because I felt like working with the kids, I found an inkling of what I wanted to do, which is to work more closely with the youth. And at the time, I felt like, JVP could always use another set of hands, and on us being, I am the youngest, so when I graduated, I guess my parents were liberated from any obligation. At that point, I felt like, because I had the time, that was the simplest sense, because I had the time and that desire was still there to keep doing more, I decided to volunteer again. But this time, I made a personal request of JVP if they could assign me as a teacher for a rural community, because I felt like I was being called to that kind of ministry.
So saan yung rural community na yan, Kuya Yayun?
I was assigned in, it's a small barangay called Concepcion in the northernmost part of the easternmost part of the country, which is Arteche, Eastern Samar. So it was
Samar.
literally a community that was very divorced from the rest of the world.
Remote kung remote.
Remote.
The remotest.
No signal, no internet. Really, and for a school context, that is very difficult. It was a rundown school that was abandoned by the religious congregation that set it up, and then the Diocese of Borongan, which is in charge of the area, felt like sayang kasi it was the only Catholic basic education institution that was available within 20 to 30 barangays. So a lot of parents who wanted their children to receive some form of Catholic education would not be accessible if the school shut down. So we arrived at the very peak of their struggle.
So parang having a glimpse of Kuya Yayun's volunteer mission, no, from an office, no, papunta sa isang pinaka-remote na area. Parang nakikita ko talaga, gusto kong itanong, though I know there were a lot of life-giving moments, no, but I would like to dwell more on what were the difficulties maybe that you faced, no,
Marami
during
ata
those
yan.
years.
Marami yan.
No, from your
Wala kulang ang oras.
from your first year to your second year, siguro ano yung pinaka nag-stand out na
Matingkad.
pinakamatingkad na difficulty na hinarap mo during your volunteer years?
Well, in all of my volunteer years, I think I find the first, it wasn't, everything was bearable in the first year, because the beauty of JVP is it does not just send you out as a form of manpower, but it regards you as part of a larger community, and being accessible to the community here in the Manila area meant that I had at my fingertips support in all its forms, coming from my family to even the JVP family, which I found here in this organization. The real struggle actually was when you are assigned in a remote community such as Eastern Samar, and we were assigned there when Typhoon Yolanda hit the Philippines. So really, it was the remoteness of it all, and really not being able to contact your family at the midst of such a large crisis. And literally, I had a partner, so both our families were really worried sick about us. And I remembered my partner's mom calling us, telling us na, shout out Tita Kathy, na she told us na not to be alarmed if we saw our names on the Red Cross website, because she put our names there for rescue. So it was really a struggle, because we already were very divorced already from the life of outside of that barangay. And after Yolanda hit, really there was a shortage of food. There was no electricity for like 2 to 3 months, and we still had to continue teaching. We had to do activities. I had to organize an English month celebration without electricity amidst all of these things. So it was really really, it was I would say that year really broke me. But then my takeaway from that is, well, sometimes you have to be broken to be shared, diba? So that's the struggle really of it is, I guess, when you leave your comfort zone and you enter into a situation where so much is being asked of you, and we are so limited also by our faculties, but yet there is an overbounding desire to do more and more and more. It becomes really draining. And apart from that, you are taking on the suffering and the struggles of people you do not know but have come to love, because they deserve as much as the rest of the world is getting. And really, that in itself makes the life of a JVP something very difficult. But at the end of the day, it is the most meaningful thing you could do with your life.
I think in hindsight, syempre, Kuya Yayun is telling his story. He makes it sound so parang normal lang.
Normal,
no?
oo.
Pero I think yun nga hindi siya madali.
Hindi siya madali at all.
Pero habang nagsalita nga siya, nararamdaman ko. Parang gusto ko tuloy itanong, was there a point that na gusto mo na sabihin, Diyos ko, parang last day ko na to, parang gano'n.
Uwi na ako.
Oo, uwi na ako. Parang kasi sobrang hirap na yung pinagdaanan mo.
Well, definitely. The same year, I also got sick. Really, really sick, that they had to rush me to the hospital. Every day was a constant struggle to keep saying yes. And naalala ko nga, sorry, corny, plug in ng Nescafe, na may tinatanong silang para kanino ka bumabangon, is a very interesting question. But I think more importantly than that is the question of para kanino ka nananatiling nakabangon, because it's always easy to just go back to sleep. So I think what I learned from volunteerism there is really what I shared earlier, na it's a decision that you have to keep making every day. That today I could keep doing my job, and then tomorrow I will keep doing my job. And even at the height of depression, at the height of a natural calamity, at the height of literally physical exhaustion and getting sick and being hospitalized, and in all of those moments, I could have decided to leave at any point, and I know no one would have blamed me. But I guess that was really the challenge of loving. Sabi nila, love until it hurts, love more until it hurts no more.
Grabe, no? It's really giving selflessly.
Nabanggit niya, of course, yun nga, nabanggit na ni Kuya Yayun yung mga life-depleting moments niya. But yun nga, definitely, some experiences must have stood out to you as the most life-giving ones. Can you share with us a few of these moments in those 2 years?
And siguro ito na yung mga experience na siguro who you are now, parang is because of these experiences na napagdaanan mo din as a volunteer.
Well, I guess the one that comes to mind really is the people, because I think for different reasons. I mean, I cannot really point out specific experiences, but really the idea of meeting these people who used to be who I used to be ignorant of, or if I was aware of their struggles, they would just be ideas or statistics, just numbers or concepts. But when you meet them in person, they become very real, and their stories become very valuable, to the point that you realize that this is why I am doing this. I am doing this because these people, not because I have something to give, or not because naaawa ako sa kanila, but I am doing this because I believe that my students in Samar, I believe all the children out there who feel abandoned because of the situation of OFW situation in the Philippines, they all deserve it. I am doing this because they deserve it. And I guess in the end, that is what pushed me forward, seeing meeting them, knowing them, getting to know their stories, and knowing that they deserve just as much as what I received when I was growing up or what I received throughout my life. I guess I am just extraordinarily blessed, and I feel like perhaps it is a little bit unfair if they get left out from experiencing what it means to be loved and to be cared for. So ganon.
Iba rin talaga pag meron ng muka.
Yes.
At may kwento na yung mga taong habang estudyante ka, naririnig mo lang.
Exactly.
Ito, panood mo lang sa TV. Diba? It's very different when there's a face and there's a story, no, behind those
Yes,
faces.
So it's reality. No?
Yes.
Kapag nasa realidad ka na, parang mahirap na, no? Parang napakadali lang kapag napapakinggan mo. Pero kapag nandun ka na, this is it, no? How to act, no? How to face it, medyo mahirap nang gawin. Ganyan. So, gusto pa natin sanang palawigin, no, yung kanya experiences, pero parang eto medyo siguro para maging mas siksik na rin yung oras natin, though very short na. Isang bagay na lang siguro, Kuya Yayun, na nag-stick out siguro sa yung experiences sa JVP.
Parang siguro the question is, when you look back at it, parang was there any one experience that you still carry with you until
now?
today? Parang I look back, itong karanasan na to,
Ito yun, parang ganon.
hawak-hawak ko pa rin siya.
Well, if I had to think of one, the first experience that comes to mind is that time really when the after effects of Yolanda,
Typhoon.
when we were in Eastern Samar. Usually in the evenings I would work. As a teacher, I would record grades or prepare my lessons for the next day. But at that time you had no choice because we only had electricity 1 hour a day. So I remembered most of the evening I couldn't really work as much as I would like to. But those were the moments that I just remembered just laying out in the school grounds with some of my students. And there were so many shooting stars that time. I realized, I told myself, God is out there, and there is something in this world that is worth living for. And despite and in spite of all of the tragic stories that came with Yolanda, those were the times when you heard of the stories of really discovering how God has never really left us, even in the midst of a great tragedy as that. People who were lost during Yolanda, but then who found themselves reunited in the most unexpected of places, and then you are reminded that God is out there and He is loving us and He is caring for us and He is looking at us kindly, and as one living on this earth and who receives this love constantly. I always ask myself, how much am I willing to give, considering how much was given to me? And I think those are the questions that I always ask myself whenever I am working, whenever I meet new people, whenever I am faced with a new advocacy. I always ask myself, can you love as much as you were loved? Sabi nga nila, di ba? We love because we were loved first. Yes.
And I can imagine, no, parang yung mga sentiments mo kaya ayun. I can imagine, or some point I know, that's what JVPs have held on for the past 40 years.
I believe so.
Hindi lang tayo yung sumasagot sa mga problema, hindi lang tayo yung tumutugon, may mas magaling sa atin.
Yes.
May sumasama sa atin. And, diba, at siya lang talaga, parang there's one Messiah. Sabi ng forum team namin, there's one Messiah and it's not you.
Thank God it's not you.
Thank God it's not you, no? It's Him. And, yun, wow.
Grabe, na-overwhelm ako. Pero sige. So,
apply na to.
pagkatapos nito, kunwari, patapos na yung application process, ano na yung masasabi mo, for example, sa mga katulad ko na siguro short na lang na...
And I know JVP's application for the next batch is open now. So, maybe you could take this time to give a message to those discerning.
Well, to those discerning, I think, we were trained, because we are educated in universities and given a lot of training to be professionals. We were trained to plan and to really be certain of the decisions that we make so as to minimize the risk and the consequences of our decisions. But at the end of the day, this isn't something that you can, this isn't a decision that you can overthink, because at the end of the day, doing volunteer work is really a risk, and you will really lose a lot, and really it's not sometimes it won't be fun, oftentimes it won't be fun, and it's not this romanticized idea of saving the world either, and it's not, hindi din siya parang just visiting the Philippines na ikaw lang ay nagtuturista-turista. So when you are considering doing something, not just for JVP but maybe volunteer work in general, this is really a question of taking a leap of faith, knowing to yourself that you will lose a lot, but are you willing to lose this much in order to give as much, if not more? And so to all of you, I would like to share an anecdote that my own batchmate shared to us, and she said, faith is like jumping off a cliff and believing that one of two things will happen: either God will catch you or he will teach you how to fly. And faith allowed me to join JVP, and I never regretted that decision since. So we are open for applications for our 41st batch. If you want to learn more about JVP, you can visit our official Facebook page, Jesuit Volunteers Philippines, or you can visit our website, jvpfi.org.
Okay. So again, no, to our listeners, our viewers, no, if you are unsure of where to go, what to do in life, maybe JVP is something you'd want to consider. A group who sends volunteers, no, to communities in need, di ba? Baka yung kailangan nila, posible pa lang may maitugon ka, may maitulong ka. Just before we end the episode, as usual, we end with one question, no? So we'll go one round before we close our program with a prayer. So, Jel, Kuya Yayun, what inspired you this week? No, as another week comes to a close.
Sige, so unahan ko. What inspired me this week siguro, ito na yon, itong pagkakataong ito, no? About, grabe talaga. About mission. Parang the past few weeks kasi parang sabi ko, it was a question talaga, no? Parang paulit-ulit sa aking sarili before ako matulog. No, Lord, dito ba talaga ako gustong manatili? Ito ba talaga yung gusto mong gawin ko sa buhay ko? And parang hanggang ngayon, and parang ngayon, this is something na nag-affirm dun sa question na, aside from being a campus minister, there are a lot of things to be na pwede ko pang i-consider. Maybe baka ito rin yung isang bagay na pwedeng makapag-fulfill doon sa desire ko to serve more and to be in mission, no? So, yun, this is one thing na life-giving para sa akin. Inspiring, no? Kay yung story ni Kuya Yayun and the story of the JVP, what the JVP does, no? To contribute to the mission of the society of Jesus. Napaka life-giving siya for me, and this is these are points for reflection and for discernment, and sana one day, no, I makita ko yung sagot, no, clearly.
Okay. Kaya yun.
I guess this week, and not just this week, but every week I'm always inspired by our volunteers who are currently doing their missions, who are currently struggling, but who choose to keep working each and every day. And I think I would like to request of all the listeners, if you could say a little prayer for not just our Jesuit volunteers currently on mission, but all volunteers and even all of those discerning vocation, when yung tanging puhunan mo lang ay yung pananalig mo at yung pagmamahal sa puso mo. Sometimes prayers can be the most important form of consolation. So may I ask that you please remember that somewhere out there, a volunteer is really working hard just so you can live your life freely and with joy. So yun.
Sir Mark, ikaw naman.
Nung isang araw, no, pinapanood ko yung Loyola School's counterparts natin, no. May show din sila sa Radyo Katipunan. And this week, their guest was philosophy professor, si Sir Eddie Boy Calasans. And after this episode this afternoon, na-inspire ako dun sa sinabi ni Sir Calasans, kasi parang after hearing Kuya Yayun's stories, it makes much more sense. Sabi niya, all we have is time, and all that we are asked to give. And time is all that we are asked to give. Diba? And I think that speaks so much of what JVP is. Yes. At the end of the day, ang dami mong ginagawa, ang dami mong pwedeng gawin, pero pagkatapos ng lahat, oras lang naman din talaga yung binigay mo. And speaking of time, we are actually out of time. No?
OT na tayo.
Before we end, I'd like to thank again Mr. Jelord Oloraza from the Senior High CMO
Thank you so
for
much.
joining us this afternoon. And of course, to our guest, thank you for gracing us with your presence and of course your story, si
Kuya
Yayun Patrimonio of the JVP National Office. Again, if you'd like to know more about JVP, you can visit their website, you can visit their office here in Ateneo. And muli, maraming salamat sa pakikinig. Thank you for spending your afternoon with us. And we'll just end our program with a short prayer. So we remember that we are in God's presence. In the name of the Father, the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, for all that has been, thank you. For all that is to come, yes. In the name of the Father, the Son, of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Maraming salamat. We hope
Thank you so much.
see you next time.
Ignite your soul and set the world on fire. Be inspired by the stories of faith. This is Ignited to Inspire. Brought to you by the Ateneo Junior and Senior High School Campus Ministry every Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. here on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Be ignited. Be inspired.
All for you, Jesus, my Lord.
Radyo Katipunan is now online. See our live feed on facebook.com/Radyo Katipunan. Check out our Instagram and our Twitter at Radyo Katipunan and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Radyo Katipunan FM for more exclusive content. We are now on YouTube. Watch all of our live episodes plus exclusive content in our channel at Radyo Katipunan FM. Don't forget to click subscribe and hit the bell to get the latest updates. Follow at Radyo Katipunan in our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter.